Hey everybody, welcome to this episode, this edition of Newsroom Live with Lisa Evers. I'm Lisa, and I'm so glad you're joining us today on this Sunday afternoon. Hope you're inside if it's hot outside, and if you are inside that you have AC, and you're just chilling, spend a little time with us. So the topic that we're talking about today, maybe you heard about it, maybe you kind of heard about it. If you've been on your phone at all, you've probably seen some of the social media about this or the video. We're talking about what's being referred to as the Kiss Cam video, the Kiss Cam scandal, the Kiss Cam controversy. So just to bring everybody up to speed so we all know where we're at, earlier this week at a Coldplay concert in Boston, you know how at the concerts in the arenas and the many venues, they have the cameras, the moving cameras that are going every which way, capturing moments of the crowd, of the fans, that type of thing. Well, this was the Kiss Cam at the Coldplay concert, and they focused on a couple, a man with his arms around a woman who they were obviously very close to each other and obviously very friendly with each other, and from what we can say, and getting very romantic during the music, summer night concert. It's got all the elements that you need for a wonderful hot summer night in more ways than one. So the two of them are there, and then as they realize that they are on camera, the woman goes to duck away, and the man, who was much taller than her, he actually ducks down like that to get off. So the Coldplay lead singer, Chris Martin, commented, wow, he goes, either they're having an affair or they're very shy. And it turns out, according to many reports, they are allegedly having an affair. And the two individuals were identified fairly quickly as Astronomer. It's a company, it's an AI company called Astronomer CEO Andy Byron, and also his HR chief, whose name is Kristen Cabot. So that's raised a lot of questions from people. Why is this a big deal? It was a big deal because they're both married to other people. So they were kind of outed, their affair was kind of outed inadvertently, innocently enough, and but that hasn't been the end of it. So the Astronomer CEO, Andy Byron, the man that was in the video, he has submitted his resignation. And the other issue is the woman, Kristen Cabot, the woman that he was with, she's the chief she's the head of HR, which is human relations, which is the department in many corporations that deals with allegations of, sexual harassment, allegations of mistreatment, allegations of any type of bias or anything like that. So he submitted his resignation, and I'm going to read you a little bit from the comment that came from the company. So let's see where it is. Okay, here we go. So the company saying, quote, as stated previously, Astronomer is committed to the values and culture that have guided us since our founding. Our leaders are expected to set the standard in both conduct and accountability, and recently that standard was not met. So Andy Byron has submitted his resignation, and the question is why is there such a big deal being made about this? Was it because it was captured on video? It was a moment, an innocent moment captured on video? Is it because they're married? Is it because they were both top executives in this company? Let us know what you think in your comments, and we'll try to get to as many comments as possible. I'll give you my take on this. I would guess, just from the way that they looked, and shout out to Grace Springer on Storyful. She gets the credit for the video, or at least one of the videos that went out about this. I'm sure there were others. But basically, you're not supposed to be in a relationship with somebody you work with unless you're coming into the job with that relationship already known and publicly, or if you develop a relationship with a coworker at a company. Most companies, corporations, businesses, they require that one of the people that they notify HR, this department that Kristen Cabot is head of, that type of department, the department in many companies that handles these types of things, and also organizations, educational institutions, pretty much just about every business of any size has an HR person or they have an HR head. Many companies require that if you do get involved with somebody, if it's a supervisor, if you're involved with your supervisor, that's something the company can say, listen, no, you have to choose between one or the other, your job or this relationship. If it's a relationship between two people who are essentially not directly supervising, one is not directly supervising the other. This is very general now. Different corporate policies change, have variations on this. But just to give you an idea for people that haven't worked at a major corporation or worked for themselves or are self-employed or in the gig economy and they haven't had to deal with this. So basically you have the choice if it's, you're at basically the same level or in different departments in the same company, you notify them, we're seeing each other, we're dating each other, we're a couple. And that's what it is. The reason that they require that many companies and corporations ask that be done, is to avoid any of the types of sexual harassment suits, any of the type of discrimination lawsuits that we've seen, whatever it is, because there've been companies, these suits, these lawsuits have cost corporations millions and millions of dollars, and they've been the main method of redress, particularly for women and particularly for racial minorities. And a lot of companies that historically had what was called a hostile climate, a climate where the women were treated in a different way. I mean, if you want to get an idea of climate, if you look at that series that's on one of the streaming platforms, Mad Men, about the advertising business decades and decades and decades ago, you see how the women, even if they were ambitious, they were told to do menial tasks that the men were not told to do. They were told to, they were not considered eligible for promotions when they clearly deserved them, that type of thing. Those are the things that an HR department would handle. But in terms of the relationship issue, it gets very tricky because the companies can get sued if their people are not open about the relationship. Somebody who ends up getting fired or laid off or just leaves down the road can turn around and come back and say, you know what, I was discriminated against, I was harassed by this person, and here's the pictures of us having dinner at the such and such restaurant. Here's pictures of us, in all of these different types of scenarios. So that's why that is an issue. So I'd like to hear what you think about that. Do you think that she should have also been forced to resign if he was in fact forced to resign? But this is not the end of it, because there was a fake apology allegedly from Andy Byron that was put out where he said he was sorry for this, he was sorry for the pain that he caused, he was sorry for the embarrassment to the company, all of this type of thing. The company came out and said, this is a fake response, this is not from Andy Byron. And then in terms of just what's happening on, what's happening on social media and what's happening on video, that's a whole different story, which we'll get into in a minute, but I want to go right now to the live chat. If you have a comment, type your comment and, put a comment in for us and we'll get to them. Here's one from the YouTube live chat. They didn't think anyone would find out. Now, I'm going to agree with that, because I think that if you're that public, first of all, if you're conducting an affair and you don't want your spouse to find out, you don't want anybody else to find out, you would think that people would take precautions to make sure they're not in highly public locations where you could run into coworkers, you could run into people that know you could run into people. Coldplay is a hugely popular group. I mean, it's conceivable that other people in their social circle or work circles would be at that concert and would see them or whatever and would cause feedback. So clearly, they didn't think anybody would find out about it to be that relaxed in that public an arena. That's what I think. And let's be real. Excuse me. When you're in a public space, and I'm just going to say, I'm saying this wearing my crime reporter hat. If you're in a public space, especially in a major city or a major venue, many of these sports venues, and they're public about it, they're not trying to hide it, they have facial recognition techniques and technology that is in effect. That's to weed out any potential troublemakers, anybody on some of their banned lists who've disrupted games or events or concerts before, for any other reason, for to prevent harassment of the players or the performers or members of the public who are there as fans. So that's one thing. The other thing is these cameras in the crowd. These have been a staple of concerts for years. Where they'll highlight, especially football games, baseball games, basketball games. A lot of that. The screens are everywhere. If you're in public, you have to assume, even if you're just going out for a routine errand, you're going to be on camera somewhere. So if you're on camera with a woman that you clearly are very comfortable with, let's just leave it like that, you can use your imagination, in a public venue like that, in a concert, this guy's a technology CEO. He knows he knows a lot about cameras. He knows a lot about the technology that is out there and available. It's an AI company. So this is not somebody who's coming from another planet where there's no cameras and he's just like, whoa, or, that's crazy, or has lived underground for the last 50 years. But the fact of the matter is they seem very comfortable. The camera caught them, and now they have to deal with the aftermath. It's sad that their partners have to find out that way if in fact they didn't know. And, it's just that's the way it is. Okay, here's a comment. Is this really this controversial? Okay, some people are saying, why is this controversial? I'm just using that word based on some of the comments that we've seen on some of the social media postings that myself and our digital content producer and creator, Brianna, has seen, where people are like, what's wrong with having an affair if you're married to somebody else? Well, if you have an open marriage, some people have open relationships. Polyamory is a real thing for some people, so they say. And they know about it, and the partner's like, listen, I'm staying married to you for the kids, or I'm staying married to you for X, Y, or Z reason. You do your thing, I'll do my thing, as long as it's not public, what they often say. As long as you don't publicly embarrass me, we're cool. If you keep it on the low, if you keep it low key, if you keep it, in places where people are not going to see you, or people where we know aren't going to see you. But the reality is, with a lot of affairs, people tend to go to places that they know. They go to restaurants that they're familiar with, where they like the food, or they like the ambiance, or they know the maître d', or they know the manager, or they know the owner, and they feel comfortable there. Some people have affairs where they're having sex with other people in the bedroom that they share with their wife or their husband. That's pretty risky, and a lot of times those end up in crime stories because those never end well at all. But the fact of the matter that they were so public is very, it's kind of questionable. It raises a question for me, because if you're in a position, if you're working for a corporation that's big enough to have an HR department, you know darn well that your public persona, how you conduct yourself in public, whether it's, you're getting raging, roaring drunk somewhere and taking off your clothes, or you're doing provocative dancing, or you're driving recklessly and get caught doing it, or you get caught drunk driving, or driving while impaired, or you get caught in a fist fight with somebody outside of a bar after a big heated sports playoff game or something like that. Those are the types of things that, as a CEO, I'm sure any CEO at that level for that type of company has a contract. And in the contract, just like with athletes, as many of you already know, just like with athletes, they are, there's a morals clause, and or a standard of conduct clause, which obviously there was in this case, standard of behavior, that, you're supposed to uphold society's, main standards of behavior, of generally accepted behavior. And most people, especially most people who are married, do not believe that it is okay to go out with other people. I mean, we saw a famous case of this with Cardi B and her ex-husband Offset. He basically explained it was how frank he was what was so shocking, but he basically said, listen, I want to have sex with other women and she doesn't want me to. That's what it came down to. He explained it in a very basic term. So, people have different ideas. People have different ideas about what relationships should be in, what relationships should be in 2025. Let's go back to the live chat. Thank you to everybody who's making comments now. Our digital content creator, Brianna's going through them and trying to get them up for me here on the screen as fast as possible. Here's one. Why do companies use moral clauses? Does it really matter? Yes, it definitely really matters, because if you just look at it this way, I'll use the analogy of a celebrity. They treat company reputations the same way they treat sports and celebrity reputations. For example, you look at Sean Diddy Combs with the Diddy trial, any endorsements, any type of things, any business things that he had. Immediately, as soon as the allegations started pouring in after the Cassie civil lawsuit was filed in November of 2023, those all went out the window. Those were all stopped. Affiliations, companies that he was part of, even companies he helped found, like Revolt, he was out. Honors and awards that he was given were rescinded. So it matters to companies, because, especially if they're publicly traded companies, because the reputation of a CEO who's handling a multi-million-dollar, multi-billion-dollar company, you want to have somebody that you know has their eyes on the bottom line and that's looking to keep that company successful, not that's spending every waking hour outside of the office of his or her time in an affair. Because you figure, when you're adding an affair, if there's already a mix of a current existing wife or husband, if there's family, if there's children, whatever, there's only 24 hours in a day. So if you're dividing it between your main job, your family, your what people sometimes call your side piece, you're the person you're having the affair with, that person, there's not that much time, maybe time that you need to be spending at company events or doing research or working with your team building, that type of thing, getting ready for an IPO, dealing with stock issues, stockholders' concerns. You have to present a certain image of professionalism. So it matters very much to the companies. And if these brands are affiliated with behavior that the vast majority, I haven't seen any polls on this, in terms of what people think, if it's okay to have an affair or not okay to have an affair. But if you're dealing with public opinion, you want to have somebody that is totally credible and totally trustworthy. And a lot of people would say, I know we've seen presidents who've cheated in the past, whose infidelities became known. And the big issue was, can you trust that individual? Okay, let's go to the live chat. So here's the comment is, he, meaning, I'm assuming meaning Andy Byron, the CEO, kept saying that wasn't him at the concert, but if it wasn't, why did he resign? Okay, I think that if, first of all, we don't know if all the denials were actually authentic. I'm going to say this, if they were real fake, if they were real, and then they later said they were fake, or if they were fake all the way along, or if some of these denials were fake, or if some of these denials were put out by people who were trying to help them. We don't know. But it was clear his name came out there right away, and people knew him. Maybe he was being stalked. Maybe one of the spouses, I mean, this happened very, very fast. It's not exactly like he's a household name or this Kristen Cabot is a household name. Now they're well known, but it's not like people would instantly go, oh wow, that's so and so, or that's, oh wow, that's Tom Brady, or that's somebody, or whatever, people that they would know, from being really, really famous. So I think that the resignation came because it was just too much. It was too much. He obviously was there, because if he was not there, he would not have resigned. He would have gotten a lawyer, and he would have filed a lawsuit immediately against the company for wrongful termination. And that would have been happening within 24 hours after all of this happened. So I think that there was a lot of confusion. I think that they were under the delusion that this was not a big deal. And they didn't, again, it surprises me, you're in a technology company, didn't understand the power of a piece of video, of a 10 or 15, 20-second piece of video that it could have, or what happens when a video goes viral. Okay, so here's a question on our YouTube live chat. We're going to try to get as many questions, Brianna, as we can, because I know people have a lot to say. This comment is, should the woman be fired from her position? The question is, a lot of times at that top level, like Andy Byron, when they say he resigned, he was a lot of times he was forced to resign. He probably had the conversation. Here's what it is. You can resign and we won't pursue this further. We won't seek further legal action. Here's your parachute. Here's your package. Here's your severance package, or whatever was pre-negotiated. We'll hold, we will honor that, or we will honor a certain percentage of that. That's what they might be saying. In terms of her, I think if he left, I think she has to leave as well, because how can people have faith in the head of HR? The HR, she's the one that's supposed to apply the company standards and make sure people behave professionally and follow the rules. And again, understand that these corporations have these morals clauses, not because they're the moral police, it's to protect their bottom line. A company, a corporation, a business, their number one goal is to make money. It's bad for them making money if they end up having to spend a lot of money on lawyers or a lot of time with the corporate legal teams defending against lawsuits that can later be construed as harassment, pressure, hostile work environment, any of these types of things. So if you're asking my opinion, I think the woman has to resign as well, because how could anybody in that company have faith in the HR department when the woman is violating the most basic rules? And understand too, I'm pretty sure in Massachusetts and in Boston, they have similar state and city local policies about these things based on sexual harassment and about the proper procedures that have to be followed. So I would think that this whole thing could easily turn into a legal battle, but maybe they said to Andy Byron, look, you leave gracefully now, you'll have your severance package, you'll keep your stock options or whatever kind of a deal he had with them, and this is what it is, we won't pursue it any further. That would be a typical type of resolution to something like this. Whether that is the resolution that was presented to him in this particular case, I don't know for a fact, but that's typically what is done in these kinds of situations, as well as the woman. The woman is also, would be offered the opportunity to resign, unless she's going to turn around now and say that she was forced into this, and say that she was sexually harassed by the CEO, and try to sue Astronomer for millions and millions of dollars. We've seen scenarios like that play out as well. So I don't think that the final chapter or final paragraph on the story, if you will, has been written yet, that we know exactly what happened. Okay. Here's the live chat comment. What was the surprise here? Where's the discretion? Well, that's my question too. How can you be surprised that they have video cameras on the people, on the fans in the stands here at a concert? That's been going on forever. And people know that. You know the cameras are out there. You know they're scanning the crowds, that type of thing. And the discretion, if you're having an affair, I think rule number one is you want to keep it quiet. You want to keep it hidden. You want to keep it secret. But obviously, this was being revealed. And just judging from their body language and from the level of comfort that they seem to have with each other, I don't think this was a first date. I don't think the first date was, oh, let's go to a Coldplay concert. I think it was they've already been out and about. Maybe this had been going on for some time, and they were feeling comfortable, and they were like, oh, we'll go to the concert. There's going to be thousands of people there. What could possibly go wrong? And maybe it was something like that. And then here's the live chat. Is this Coldplay's fault? No, absolutely not. Actually, Chris Martin was making a comment. He was just, basically joking about the video when he saw them, running for cover. It was like ducking. The man's ducking. Andy Byron is ducking. The woman just literally turned her back and spun out of there really fast. He saw that. You see it so fast. I mean, the whole video clip is seconds. And Chris Martin said over the stadium, or the arena speaker, over the loudspeaker system, he goes, either they're having an affair or they're really shy. So obviously he was apparently right on the first one. And he was just reacting to what was happening in, fan interaction. This is what happens at concerts. This is what happens in public venues. So I think for them to be surprised or feel like that they were in a private place, they couldn't have been in a less private place. You have surveillance videos in surveillance video in the parking lot. You have surveillance video in the, in the venue, in the actual venue itself. My question is, I'm wondering, was there somebody, were one of the other spouses, or even maybe the company, were they having them followed? Were they being followed? Were they being photographed? Or, I mean, it's crazy that the camera was there right at that particular moment, and that it ended up I'm not surprised it ended up going viral, because I don't think it would have gone as viral if they had just kind of like put their head down, or she had turned around, or something like that. But it's to be expected. You're in a public place. The minute you walk out the door of your house, basically, especially if you're in a city, you're in a public place. Cameras on the street lights, cameras in all the buildings, cameras at the ATM, cameras in many of the stores, cameras on the street corners. Okay, here's another question from the live chat, and thank you to everybody that's getting involved on the live chat here. Do you think people should be making fun of them by replicating the moment online? Okay, no, I think I don't think people will. Well, first of all, people are going to make fun of anything and everything. That is their right to do. It's unfortunate, I think, for their families. I think it's unfortunate for their spouses, especially if they didn't know. Even if the spouses of the two, of Andy and Kristen, who were the ones that were there at the concert, even if their spouses were suspicious of the affair, or maybe aware of the affair, it's doubtful the kids were, although kids usually catch on to those things if they've been going on for a while, and especially if the parents are sloppy about keeping it silent. Which, if they were going that public, they were that public at a concert. So imagine if they were at a restaurant, they were at a bar, going in and out of the lobby of a hotel. Who knows? So, but people are making fun of it, and that's their right. That's their First Amendment right under the U.S. Constitution. There's also a game which our digital content creator, what do they call those, flash games? Yeah, a flash game that was created where the person, the avatar, what we call it, like the avatar is like looking through the arena and or the stadium and trying to find the couple, and then if they move the avatar the right way and lock in on the couple, then they get a point or whatever. So there's already flash games about this, but people are going to make fun of it what they are. It just highlights a point. And I think it's just a good moment for all of us to remind ourselves. It's like everything in society now, it seems like anything goes. People think, okay, well, there's no rules anymore. There's no standards. There's no morals. Everything goes. Everything doesn't go if you're in a corporate environment. Everything doesn't go if you work for the government. You may get away with it for a while, but there are moral standards. There are morals clauses. There are behaviors, good behavior standards, and this type of thing. And to any of the people who are just starting to enter the workforce, who are just coming out of school or getting summer jobs, or who have summer jobs right now or whatever, you're looked at as the newbies to the people that are seasoned in that particular job or company or restaurant, wherever you're working. And you have to conduct yourself professionally, no matter how friendly people try and get with you. If you don't really know them, don't go for drinks with a group of people from work after work. If this is one of your part-time jobs and you're going to be going to school in September, really, what is it going to do for you? And it's just going to create more problems. And bosses pay attention to that type of thing. And the best advice, which can be the hardest advice, but the best advice is do not get romantically involved or sexually involved with anybody at your workplace. It's very, very rare that ever ends up well. Oh, excuse me. Okay, here's the question. Can they sue those people for this? Can the couple sue people that are making fun of them and people like the people that made the game, the flash games? Yes, they could if they want to, but the question is, how are they going to find them if it's all online and it's under different accounts, it's under different IP addresses, it's under a ghost username type of thing situation. It's going to be very untrackable, and maybe the person doesn't have that much money anyway. What obviously didn't happen here, which is gives us a few more roots of speculation is that they, is basically that the company got caught off guard. They didn't have a plan in place for this, or they didn't really know what to do, or the guy, the chairman of the board or whatever, was on vacation at the time, and something along those lines. But it's clear it wasn't handled as well as it could have been handled. But I think they just were caught off guard by the viral moment of it, because it basically, that little video, that moment of honesty in that entire thing. If you look at it and it's a couple, you're like going, oh, that's great. They're having a great night. They're into each other. Looks like they're having fun. But then when you know what the backstory is, you have to imagine that their whole lives, both of them, even though she's still, from what we can tell, I mean, today's a Sunday, she's still employed. It basically is probably one of the worst moments of their lives. Their whole lives blow up. The work life, their reputations that I'm sure they work very hard for, their careers that I'm sure they imagine that they work very hard for, their families. We don't know if they have children or, dependents, but we do know, believe from the reports that they're married to other people. That has not been denied at all. So we'll see what happens with this, but we're pretty much out of time right now.
Half an hour. Do you want one last one?
We'll take one last comment. Yeah, everybody's been, thank you to everybody who's been hitting us up on the comment. Okay, just don't cheat, okay? All right, just don't cheat. We may have to do a follow-up just on cheating in general, period. I think we have to do, it's summertime too. People are moving around a lot. The whole digital landscape has allowed people to forget avatars, they don't need one. They just create a completely false, separate identity, name, everything on them. They're people who conduct what people think are faithful lives and faithful marriages, only to find out they have another family in another city. That's been going on forever, but it's a lot easier to do now. And I think a cheating show would be a really good thing. Like, okay, so I'm going to say this. For the cheating show, my question to all of you about the cheating would be, when we do the cheating show, which as long as there's no major breaking news that particular day, we'll always hit the breaking news, but it's July, it's a Sunday. We needed a break on this, on the tough stuff, on the hardcore stuff. The question with cheating is, if you are physically faithful to your partner, okay, physically faithful, you're not having sex with anybody else, but you're having phone sex with somebody else that is not your partner, is that cheating? If you are conducting a relationship, which we've seen these relationships online, where people say, oh, I'm in a relationship, but I never met him for 6 months, but I've never met him in person. How is that a relationship? You've never met the person in person? You've just been talking, you've just been DMing, you've just been messaging, whatever. So what is cheating in the year 2025? Is phone sex cheating? Is online communications, is that cheating? Sending pictures and texting back and forth, is that cheating? We're going to have to get into that one time. But I have to get back to my report and my story, and back to politics and back to crime, and say goodbye for now. But you can please follow me on my Instagram, X, Facebook, Lisa Evers Official with the blue check. On TikTok, I'm Lisa Evers Live. Have an amazing Sunday, and keep it locked here. Keep checking our Fox 5 NY YouTube. Actually subscribe, you'll get notified next time. And Fox Local app, we've got everything on there that you want, okay? Have a great day. Thank you. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.